Trust is the most valuable currency in human relationships. More valuable than charm. More valuable than intelligence. More valuable than being right. Because a person who trusts you will listen to you, follow you, forgive you, and stay with you through difficulty. A person who does not trust you will do none of those things, no matter how impressive you are. And yet most people think trust is something that either happens naturally or takes years to build. Neither is true. Trust follows specific psychological patterns. And if you understand those patterns, you can build trust faster and more reliably than you ever thought possible. Today I am going to share 7 psychology tricks that build genuine trust with virtually anyone. These are not manipulation tactics. These are techniques used by the best therapists, negotiators, and leaders in the world. And most of them take less than 30 seconds to apply. Number 1. Use their name, and use it well. This sounds almost too simple to matter. But the research behind it is striking. Hearing your own name activates brain regions associated with self-identity, self-perception, and social evaluation. Functional MRI studies have shown that your brain responds to your own name differently than to any other word, even when you are not consciously paying attention. It cuts through noise in a way that nothing else does. When you use someone's name naturally during a conversation, 2 or 3 times, not excessively, it creates an unconscious sense that you see them as an individual, not just a face in the room. It signals attention. It signals respect. And it creates a subtle sense of personal connection that generic conversation does not. The key is natural placement. That is a great point, David. I think you are onto something, David. Not every sentence. Just enough that it registers without feeling forced. It is the smallest investment of effort on this list, and consistently one of the most effective. Number 2. Vulnerability goes first. This is counterintuitive. Most people think that projecting strength and competence builds trust. And to a degree, it does. But research by Breen Brown and others has shown that the fastest way to build deep trust is not to prove how capable you are. It is to show that you are human first. Sharing a small vulnerability, admitting a past mistake, expressing genuine uncertainty, or acknowledging a personal struggle, does something powerful. It signals to the other person that you are not performing. You are being real. And realness is what trust is actually built on. The critical detail is that you go first. If you wait for the other person to be vulnerable before you are, it rarely happens. Someone has to lower their guard first. And when you are the one who does it, you give the other person permission to do the same. This does not mean oversharing. It does not mean dumping your problems on someone you just met. It means finding a moment to say something honest that a perfectly polished version of you would never say. I was really nervous about this meeting. I struggled with this same thing last year. I honestly do not have this figured out yet. That moment of honesty builds more trust than an hour of competence. Number 3. The echo technique. This is a listening trick used by crisis negotiators, and it is disarmingly simple. When someone finishes a sentence, repeat the last 2 or 3 words back to them as a question. They say, "I have been really stressed about this project." You say, "Stressed about the project?" And then you stop talking. What happens next is consistent and remarkable. They elaborate. They go deeper. They share more than they originally planned to. And they walk away from the conversation feeling more understood than they would have if you had spent 20 minutes asking questions. FBI negotiator Chris Voss describes this technique in detail. He calls it mirroring, and he considers it one of the most powerful rapport-building tools in existence. It works because it signals that you are listening without inserting your own interpretation. You are not paraphrasing. You are not redirecting. You are simply reflecting their words back to them and creating space for them to continue. The person feels heard. And feeling heard is the foundation of trust. Number 4. Consistent small follow-throughs. Trust is not built in grand gestures. It is built in small, consistent actions that match what was promised. If you say, "I will send you that article," send it. That day. If you say, "Let me check on that for you," check on it and follow up without being reminded. If you say, "I will be there at 9, arrive at 9. These micro-commitments seem trivial, but they are the bricks that trust is built from. Research on trust in organizations consistently shows that reliability on small things predicts trust on large things. People unconsciously track your follow-through rate, and they form their assessment of your character based on the pattern, not on any single action. The most trusted people are not the ones who make the biggest promises. They are the ones who keep the smallest ones. If you want to build trust faster, make fewer commitments but keep every single one of them. Under-promise and over-deliver is not just a business cliché. It is a description of how trust actually works. Number 5. Pause before you answer. When someone asks you a question, most people rush to respond. The pause feels uncomfortable, so they fill it immediately. But a brief pause, 2 or 3 seconds, before answering does something powerful. It signals that you are actually thinking about what was asked, that the question mattered enough to consider carefully, that your answer is going to be deliberate rather than automatic. This is particularly effective when someone asks for your opinion on something important. The pause says, "I am taking this seriously." An instant answer, no matter how good, says, "I already had this answer prepared," which can feel dismissive. Therapists are trained to do this. So are skilled interviewers. The pause is not silence for the sake of drama. It is a visible signal of respect for the question. And respect builds trust. Number 6. Admit what you do not know. This might be the most powerful trust-building behavior on this list, and it is the one that most people avoid because it feels risky. When someone asks you something and you do not know the answer, say so. Clearly. Without hedging. "I honestly do not know. That is outside my expertise. I would need to look into that before I could give you a good answer." In a world full of people who bluff, speculate, and pretend to know things they do not, admitting ignorance is shocking. It builds trust instantly because it signals that when you do claim to know something, you can be believed. Research on credibility consistently shows that people who occasionally say "I do not know" are rated as more trustworthy than people who always have an answer. The willingness to be wrong on small things makes you more believable on everything else. This works in professional settings, personal relationships, and even parenting. "I do not know, but let us find out together" is one of the most trust-building sentences in the English language. Number 7. Control the peak and the ending. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman discovered that people do not judge an experience by the whole thing. They judge it by 2 moments, the most intense point and the ending. This is called the peak-end rule, and it has profound implications for how you build trust over time. If you want someone to remember an interaction positively, make sure 2 things happen. First, create 1 moment of genuine connection or value during the conversation. A moment where they feel truly heard, truly helped, or genuinely surprised. Second, end the interaction well. Not abruptly. Not with a rushed goodbye. End with warmth, with a specific reference to something they said, or with a small gesture that shows you were paying attention. This is why a server who brings a mint with the bill gets a larger tip. It is why a job interview that ends with a thoughtful question is remembered more fondly than one that ends with a generic handshake. The ending disproportionately shapes the memory. If you get the peak and the ending right, the person will remember the entire interaction as positive, even if the middle was unremarkable. And positive memories are the raw material of trust. So there they are. 7 ways to build trust that are backed by research and used by the best communicators in the world. Use their name. Be vulnerable first. Echo their words. Follow through on small things. Pause before answering. Admit what you do not know. And control the peak and the ending. What makes these work is that they are not tricks in the manipulative sense. They are behaviors that signal something real. They signal that you are present, that you are honest, and that the other person matters to you. Trust is not a technique, but it responds to techniques that demonstrate genuine regard. If you found this useful, subscribe. Next week I am covering the psychology tricks that people use when they want you to say yes, and how to recognize when they are being used on you. I will see you in the next one.